The Goths. You're a Roman soldier standing guard on a chilly night. Suddenly, you hear a blood-curdling war cry that makes your armor rattle. But these aren't your average barbarians at the gates. Nope, these are the Goths. And they are about to give Rome a makeover it never asked for, as subtle as a bratwurst at a vegan buffet. They weren't just moody teenagers in black. Imagine the Germans from the ancient world, brutal warriors who rode into battle like a line of Mercedes G-Wagons, sturdy, relentless. And they didn't care about how big the Roman Empire was. As we like to say in Germany, even the biggest schnitzel can be eaten by a hungry enough dackel. The Goths gave Rome such a headache that even aspirin couldn't cure it. In 378 AD, they decimated a Roman army at the Battle of Adrianople, killing Emperor Valens. It was like watching a master chef filleting a fish. Quick, efficient, and a bit scary. No patience for Roman nonsense, just pure German efficiency. In 410 AD, they sacked Rome itself, turning the Eternal City into a temporary Gothic boutique. Once they took over, the Goths brought in a blend of Roman government and German order. Think Roman Senate meets German punctuality. But these barbarians ended up preserving much of Roman culture. They established kingdoms in Spain and Italy, mixing their flair with Roman governance like the perfect blend of martini and Sprite I used to drink. If you think the Goths were bad, wait until you meet their steppe-dwelling cousins. The Mongols weren't your average nomads. They were like the FedEx of destruction, delivering chaos across continents with frightening efficiency like a perfectly tuned war engine, blending strategy, discipline, and a dash of pure terror and mad archery skills. The Mongols would fake a retreat, luring enemy forces into a trap and then, with flawless coordination, swoop back in to decimate them, almost as efficient as I decimate my omelette every morning. Imagine an empire so vast it stretched from Korea to Hungary, and built by guys who practically lived on horseback. The Mongols were like the horseradish of history, sharp, spicy, and guaranteed to make your eyes water. But they weren't just conquerors, they were innovators of chaos. Their military tactics were more coordinated than a German train schedule. They could shoot arrows accurately at full gallop, making their cavalry about as fun to face as my German humor. And when it came to siege warfare, they did not just bring knives to a gunfight, no, they brought gunpowder to blow up city walls. Under their top dog Genghis Khan, the Mongol army had a level of order even the Germans couldn't achieve. Cities that dared to resist like Nishapur and Baghdad were just leveled. Their tactics were legendary, winning battles like Kalka River where they crushed Russian and Kipchak forces, and the Battle of Mohi where they ambushed and obliterated the Hungarians. It was like watching a master chess player where every move happens to end in checkmate. But even the mighty Mongols met their match at Ain Jalut in 1260, where the Egyptian Mamluks used their own tricks against them. If you think the Mongols were fast, wait until you meet the speed demons of the ancient world. The Thracians. You've heard of Spartans, right? But have you met their wilder cousins? A tribe so fierce, even the Greeks called them barbarians. Emerging in 3500 BC, the Thracians were like the OGs of extreme sports in the ancient world. These tattooed terrors inhabited southeast Europe, and man, they made the Spartans look like they were hosting a tea party. Now, these weren't your average warriors. The Thracians had a unique approach to battle that would make your average gladiator soil his loincloth. They favored light armor and swift movements, darting around the battlefield like caffeinated squirrels. And their weapons? Oh boy, they wielded long spears and something called a rhomphaia, a bladed weapon that made the Romans even change their armor, and the Thracians used to impale Roman heads. Both men and women sported cool tattoos, probably to intimidate their enemies and maybe just to look slick while pillaging. Oh, and they also liked rites that involved blood sacrifices, including those of their enemies. Despite their barbaric reputation, the Thracians were actually quite sophisticated. They were skilled in metalworking, producing elaborate gold treasures that would even make a dragon jealous. but their greatest export? Warriors. The Thracians were so fierce that even the mighty Romans recruited them as mercenaries. And let's not forget their most famous son, Spartacus, the gladiator who led a slave rebellion that had Rome shaking in its sandals. The Picts. Imagine facing an army of warriors covered in stylish blue tattoos, screaming battle cries in a language you've never heard. Welcome to Scotland, home of the mysterious Picts. But why exactly did these painted people have Rome reaching for the world's biggest bottle of blue paint remover? You see, these guys had a knack for turning their rugged homeland into nature's deadliest obstacle course. When the Romans tried to conquer Britain around 80 AD, the Picts gave them such a headache that Emperor Hadrian decided to build a massive wall just to keep them out, long before Berlin made it famous. But why were these painted dudes so feared? Imagine a Roman soldier marching through the misty Scottish Highlands. Suddenly, a horde of tattooed warriors emerged from the fog, using the terrain for guerrilla warfare that would make modern special forces jealous. They'd launch surprise attacks, then vanish into the landscape faster than you could say haggis. And don't even get me started on their hit-and-run tactics. They'd pretend to retreat, only to lure unsuspecting Roman cavalry into deadly ambushes. The Picts' finest hour came at the Battle of Dunneshtin in 685 AD. King Bride III, sporting the most intimidating blue-faced swagger paint in history, led his forces to a crushing victory against the Northumbrians. This wasn't just a battle, it was Scotland's "you shall not pass" moment, securing Pictish independence. You think the Picts were resilient? Wait till you meet a tribe that took vandalism to an art form. The Vandals. No, not your rowdy graffiti teenagers. This barbarian tribe was so feared, they made the mighty Roman Empire struggle like my gaming chair does whenever I eat even the tiniest sliver of onion. These master destroyers built one of the most impressive kingdoms in North Africa. You might ask yourself, but Professor Stein, how did a bunch of Germanic beach bums become Mediterranean Mongols? That's a very good question. Let's see here. The Vandals started their European tour in present-day southern Poland, but the arrival of the Huns sent them packing. More on them later. Like a rowdy group of tourists, the Vandals invaded Gaul and the Iberian Peninsula, settling there in 409 AD, but their Spanish vacation was cut short when the Visigoths showed up and said, "Fertig mit lustig, Freunde, party is over." So by 429 the Vandals were looking for a new holiday spot. What's a barbarian tribe to do? Go to the beach, of course. The Vandals crossed the Strait of Gibraltar into North Africa faster than you can say Kreuzfahrtschiff. But they weren't there just to work on their tents. In 439 AD they conquered Carthage, turning it into their capital and maritime base. Suddenly, these landlocked Germans were running a naval empire that would make Poseidon jealous. They controlled vital trade routes, including Rome's grain supply, and even made the Eastern Roman Emperor build a seawall around Constantinople. In 455, they strolled right into Rome and helped themselves to all the treasures like it was Black Friday sale. But despite the legends, they didn't torch the city or slaughter the Romans. No, they just borrowed Rome's valuables with all the finesse of a tax collector. But the Vandal reign wasn't built to last. In 553, the Byzantine Empire swooped in and wiped out the Vandal kingdom. Just like that, the mighty Vandals faded from the history faster than a discount schnitzel at Oktoberfest. The Huns. While the Vandals were redecorating the Roman Empire, another group was busy bulldozing it entirely. The Huns were an unstoppable wave of nomadic horsemen from Central Asia that made even the fiercest warriors look like scared kittens. These guys were known for their crazy riding stunts, speed, and overpowered archery skills. Hitting a dude 80 yards away with an arrow while galloping? Piece of cake for a Hun. But fear was the Huns' real secret weapon. Imagine facing warriors who looked straight out of your worst nightmares. It's said that the Huns bound their children's heads to give them skulls that were, shall we say, uniquely intimidating. They were also notorious for their ruthlessness. Men, women, children, nothing escaped their wrath. They looted, pillaged, and left entire villages looking like the aftermath of Oktoberfest. No wonder they sent the Ostro and the Visigoths running for cover. The Huns were also masters of deception and fought in seeming disarray, confusing their enemies. Psychological warfare at its finest, like trying to play chess while riding a roller coaster, super effective against larger, more organized armies. By 395 AD, the Huns decided Roman domains looked like prime real estate. Under the leadership of Attila, known as the Scourge of God, they built an empire stretching from the Ural Mountains to the Rhine River. In 451, Attila decided to storm into Gaul, ready to give Rome a fresh nightmare. But this time, the Romans had teamed up with the Visigoths. Legend has it, the night before battle, Attila consulted sacrificed bones and saw a grim vision. Thousands of his own would fall, and fall they did, in the Catalonian plains. For hours, the Huns fought fiercely, but the Roman-Visigoth alliance drove Attila back. The Scythians thundered onto the scene around the 8th century BC, replacing earlier tribes like the Agathyrsi, sorry for the pronunciation, and the Cimmerians. The Scythians quickly dominated and raided the western Eurasian steppe, stretching from the Black Sea to Central Asia. But these weren't your average horse enthusiasts. The Scythians took bloodthirsty to a whole new level. Picture this. After your first kill in a battle, you are expected to drink your enemy's blood. Scythian warriors also collected the severed heads of their foes to present them to their king, like a macabre loyalty program. The more heads you brought, the higher your rank, and the better your war spoils. They even converted their enemies' skulls into drinking bowls. Even the mighty Persian Empire under Darius I found this out the hard way. When the Persians tried to conquer the Scythians, our nomadic friends said, "Not today." They employed scorched earth and guerrilla tactics, leading Darius's army on a wild goose chase across the steppes, but eventually they had to respect Big Daddy Darius. The Sarmatians eventually conquered the Scythians, and the last remnants were overwhelmed by the Goths. The Vikings. What if I told you that a band of bearded berserkers beat Columbus to America by 500 years? The Vikings were not just bloodthirsty raiders. Nope, they were the world's first transatlantic real estate moguls. But their sales pitch? Let's just say it involved more axes than handshakes. These nautical madmen were master shipbuilders, crafting longships so swift and sturdy that even German engineers would be envious. And their navigation skills? They were using the sun and stars to find their way, while most folks were still afraid of falling off the edge of the world. They established settlements in Iceland, Greenland, and even reached North America around the year 1000. But let's not forget their favorite pastime: surprise visits to unsuspecting coastal communities. The raid on Lindisfarne in 793 kicked off the Viking Age with a bang, shocking the Christian world and giving monks a very good reason to update their home security systems. And in 845, the Vikings, led by legendary Ragnar Lothbrok, show up in Paris like a surprise audit. The Franks, led by Charles the Bald, paid a hefty ransom to make the Vikings leave, which was pretty much Ragnar's way of sending an invoice for services rendered. Classic Viking efficiency there. Then we have the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066. King Harald Hardrada and his Vikings thought they'd pop by England for some old-fashioned conquering, but King Harold Godwinson had other plans. The Vikings got a bit too cocky and got their butts kicked, effectively closing the book on their era in England. The Gauls. These united Celtic tribes of mainland Europe were Rome's most persistent headache, complete with fabulous mustaches and a habit for collecting enemy heads as party favors. These guys feared nothing except the sky falling on their heads. Imagine walking into a Gallic village and seeing severed heads hanging from horses' necks like some Halloween decoration. Enough to make even the bravest Roman soldier reconsider his career choice. But the Gauls weren't all about decapitation and intimidation. They were a sophisticated bunch with their own coinage and fortified settlements. And let's not forget about their druids brewing some questionable potions on the side. Now, let me introduce you to Vercingetorix, or however this guy is pronounced, the Gallic equivalent of a rock star. This charismatic leader managed to unite the squabbling Gallic tribes against a common enemy, Julius Caesar. At the Battle of Gergovia in 52 BC, Vercingetorix led his united Gallic force to victory against Caesar's legions. It was like watching David take on Goliath. But even the mightiest mustache can't change the course of history. Despite their fierce resistance and clever tactics, the Gauls eventually fell to Caesar's forces at the Battle of Alesia. The Cumans, these Turkic nomads from Central Asia, weren't content with just grazing their horses and shooting arrows. No, they had bigger fish to fry. From the 11th to the 13th century, these savvy riders turned Eastern Europe into their personal chessboard, moving kings and queens around like pawns. Their secret weapon? Lightning-fast cavalry that could run circles around their enemies. The Cumans perfected the art of the fake retreat, luring their foes into traps before unleashing a storm of arrows. It was like watching a cat play with a mouse, except the mouse was usually an entire army. In 1055, they decided to crash the Kievan Rus party, kicking off a 175-year-long war that reshaped Eastern Europe. But why stop there? The Cumans went on a neighborhood rampage, picking fights with everyone, from the Kingdom of Hungary, Poland to the Byzantine Empire. It was like they were trying to collect conflict stamps in their nomadic passport. And then they became the ultimate kingmakers. They helped the Bulgars and Vlachs break free from Byzantine control, essentially redrawing the map of medieval Europe from horseback. They also helped the Georgians stop the Seljuks and made them the most powerful kingdom in the region. Sadly, even the mightiest horse archers can't outrun fate. The Mongol invasion hit the Cumans like a freight train, scattering them to the winds. Some clever Cumans integrated into Hungarian society, trading their nomadic lifestyle for a cushy spot in the local elite. The Magyars. While the Cumans found a cozy retirement in Hungary, the Magyars were about to shake Europe to its core. Imagine an army so swift and deadly, they could conquer an entire region while barely touching the ground. These Turkic-Ugric horsemen galloped into history around 895 AD, pushed out of the Pontic steppe by the pesky Pechenegs. But did they cry? Nah, they turned this into an opportunity, setting their sights on the juicy Pannonian plain, subduing the great Moravian state in 906 AD, and obliterating the East Frankian army at the Battle of Pressburg 1 year later. For the next 60 plus years, the Magyars became Europe's uninvited house guests. Their horse archery skills were so impressive, they could shoot arrows accurately while riding at full gallop. It's like they invented the world's deadliest drive-by. They raided everywhere from Denmark to Spain and Portugal, leaving a trail of terrified Europeans in their wake. But even the mightiest arrows can miss their mark. In 955 AD, at the Battle of Lechfeld, the German forces under Otto I finally put a dent in the Magyar war machine with some good old German quality heavy cavalry. After that, the Magyars pulled off the ultimate career change, transforming from terror of Europe to founders of the Kingdom of Hungary.